Hello again, 4th grade. Today we're going to continue our lessons in geometry. Today we're going to focus on angles and types of triangles. First, let's remind ourselves what an angle is. An angle. So an angle is when you have two rays, start with one ray right here, and you connect another ray. So you have two. And then we know that the arrow means that they go on forever, but they're stopping at an endpoint in the middle. So usually with angles, we use these and we measure how open an angle is. So an angle that looks like this would have a smaller measurement than an angle that looked something like this. Because this one's not open wide, and this one is open a lot wider, we know that the angle right here would be a larger angle measurement. So there's 4 different types of angles that we see. The 4 categories that we put angles in are right angles, acute angles, obtuse angles, and straight angles. Now we'll usually use right angle as our benchmark, so I'm going to start with that one. A right angle is any angle that has a perfect corner. And a perfect corner means it is exactly 90 degrees. So if we were to hold up a sheet of paper against our right angle, in the corner, we would see that it's a perfect corner, exactly 90 degrees. So think about a rectangle or a square or like the top of a door or a window. All of those are right angles, those perfect corners. And we can use our right angle as a benchmark so we can compare things that are smaller or things that are bigger than that. An acute angle is anything that is smaller than 90 degrees. So here I have an angle that's not quite as open as my right angle. If it were to be a right angle, it would extend straight up like that. But I can see that it's not that big. It's not opened as far. So an acute angle would be anything from 0 degrees to 89 degrees. As soon as my angle gets a little bit more open and hits 90 degrees, then it's a right angle. Next, I have an obtuse angle, and an obtuse angle is anything that's bigger than 90 degrees. So these usually look pretty wide. They've opened up pretty far. We can see that this is a really big angle. So this is anything that's bigger than 90 degrees, so starting with 91 degrees to 179 degrees. And we'll remind ourselves about why that is in just a second. So that obtuse angle is bigger than an acute angle. It's bigger than a right angle. It's anything that's larger than 90 degrees. And lastly, our straight angle. A straight angle is 2 rays that make a straight line. So this just looks like a perfectly straight line. It's opened all the way up to be a straight line. And this is exactly 180 degrees. And this is why our obtuse angle can only go to 179 degrees, because once it hits 180 degrees, it becomes a straight angle. Okay, this should be a review. So make sure if you're not ready, you pause the video, remind yourself what is the difference between a right angle, acute angle, obtuse angle, and a straight angle. Now I've drawn 3 angles on your screen. I want you to think about which one each represents. We have right angles, acute angles, obtuse angles, and straight angles. Go ahead and match one of those names to each of your 3 triangles. Pause your video and press play when you're ready to check. All right, my first angle, I can see it's not open very wide. And if I were to compare this to a right angle, well, a right angle would look like this. So I can see that this angle is smaller than a right angle, which means it has to be an acute angle. The next angle I have looks pretty close to 90 degrees, and if I were to compare it to like a note card or a sheet of paper, I would see that it's exactly 90 degrees, or as close as it can because I'm drawing with my hand. So this would be a right angle. And lastly, I see an angle that's open up pretty wide. I might even move my screen around to see that it is open really wide right here. Since this is bigger than 90 degrees, let's compare this to 90 degrees. I can see that it's open up even further than 90 degrees, which means this needs to be an obtuse angle. But it's not quite a straight line, so it's not going to be a straight angle. Now we're going to add in different types of triangles, and we're going to use these angles to help us make different types of triangles. The three types of triangles we have are right triangles, acute triangles, and obtuse triangles. These triangles are called these names because of the types of angles that they have. We're not worried about how long each of the sides are just yet. That's something that you'll learn about in 5th grade. But right now we're just looking at the different types of angles that they have. Now they sound pretty similar to our types of angles. Right triangle sounds a lot like right angle to me. So to draw a right triangle, I'm going to start with a right angle. I know a right angle is exactly 90 degrees. So there's my right angle, and all I need to do to make this a right triangle is connect and make it a triangle. I can see that the other sides, or the other angles I have, are two acute angles. So I have two acute angles and one right angle. Next, I have an acute triangle. Just like the name sounds, I'm going to start with an acute angle. I'm going to label this with an A for acute. Now to make this into a triangle, I just connect my last two sides together, and I can see that I have three acute angles. And lastly, I have an obtuse triangle. So just like the name sounds, I'm going to start with an obtuse angle. I'll put an O for obtuse. I'm going to connect it. And now I can see I have two acute angles. Now if I think about what all of these triangles have in common, well, all of my triangles have at least two acute angles. What makes them special is that third angle. So they all will have two acute angles. Some triangles will have a right angle, some triangles will have another acute angle, and some triangles will have an obtuse angle. So whatever that special third angle is what we call our triangle. So if I have a right triangle, that means I have one right angle. If I have an acute triangle, that means I have one acute angle. And if I have an obtuse triangle, that means I have one obtuse angle. But those two acute angles will always stay the same. They'll always be there no matter what type of triangle you have. So I'm going to